Hey guys, so today I'm going to be going over my squat mobility and warm-up routine that I use before every single workout. Hope you guys enjoy, and let's get to the video. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go over the tools that you're going to need for your warm-up. Hip circle, some form of like a 41-inch band. It doesn't need to be too strong. Peanut, but that's not necessary because if you have a lacrosse ball, but if you have both, it works better. Foam roller, and optionally, a body tempering tool. Not 100% necessary, but it does help a lot. Okay, so first thing I always like to start off with is foam rolling. Just a little bit of a basic routine. I always start off by rolling my lower back into my upper back. Kind of similar to my sumo deadlift warm-up and also my bench warm-up. I like to keep it universal as far as what I do with the foam roller. Always try to roll my upper back, get some thoracic extension. I always find that it helps when you loosen the lower back to get into a better position for your bench arch, for holding a better position in upper back tightness for your squat and your deadlift. So I'll kind of roll around, kind of hit my lats, so I'll roll over to my side, hit my lat, kind of reach with my arm. This will help open up the lat a little bit more. Do the same thing to the other side. Hit my lat, and I'm also hitting a little bit of the rear delt tie-in too, because that usually gets really tight. Then after I do that, I'll switch over to rolling out my legs. So just basic foam rolling of the quads. Kind of go straight back and forth, find some tight spots, and then I'll use my hamstring to kind of put it on stretch and kind of work it through those ranges of motion. This helps loosen it up, get it warmed up too for your hamstrings. Also, I will do a little bit of foam rolling on the glute. So I'll kind of lay with my one side of my glute just right on the foam roller, and I'll kind of roll back and forth like this. I'll find a little bit of a tender spot. I'll kind of sit my leg up like this, like I'm going to sit half Indian style, and I'll roll back and forth on it. And then if I really need a little bit extra, I'll pull it up on me, and then I'll get a really good stretch on it while I'm rolling it back and forth. And then another thing that I highly recommend you do is when you're getting into position for low bar squat, if you're a low bar squatter, you have to have a good amount of external rotation inside of your shoulder. So what I find is that my front delt actually gets really tight, and if it gets really tight, my arm goes like this, and I'm not able to externally rotate all the way with the bar on my back. So obviously I can't hold the bar here, but when I'm here, what happens is I have to then go forward more in my upper back. Thus, when I get into the hole in the heavy squat, I'm kind of pitched forward. So one of the things that I like to do is I'll take the end of the foam roller, right, just the end, and I'm going to put it right on my front delt. Kind of like this. So I'll line it up square with my shoulder. Actually, pull the camera in for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'll kind of put the front delt right on the front, right there. And then what I'll do is I'll roll back and forth, find a tight spot. And I will, let's see, I'll move the camera back a little bit more for you. I'll find a tight spot, and then I'll drag my hand towards the foam roller. So again, I'll find the tight spot, drag towards the foam roller. And what that's basically doing is stretching out my front delt enough where I can get enough external rotation back to get a good position on the squat. All right, let's move on to the next one. So the next thing I'm going to take the lacrosse ball and work on your glutes. So you're going to find your femur over on the back of your tailbone. You want to go about midway between both. Put the lacrosse ball there. Roll over to your side. Once you find a kind of tight spot, roll around on it. You can do a little bit of just general, just static foam rolling, or what I like to do is I'll find a spot that's tight, get into a clamshell position, and then I will just close that leg. Oh, that's tight. And then hold it, and then let it back down. Find another tight spot. Oh, found it. Close the leg, hold it for a couple seconds, and then let it back down. And what that does is that allows your knees to be able to track out, because if those are too tight, what happens is it inhibits the activation of the actual glute, and thus then your adductors come into play too much. So instead of your knees staying out, like pointing out, when you're coming down in the squat and then you start to come in, you see that knee cave. It's because the glutes are either tight or inhibited somehow. So you need to work on that for sure. Okay, next thing you're gonna work on, ankle dorsiflexion. If your ankles aren't mobile enough to actually put your knees in the right spot, what ends up happening is that you have to compensate elsewhere, usually in your hips, or you get knee pain. So what I'll do, take that medium resistance band, tie it to something solid, slip your ankle in here. And what I like to do is put the band right on the ankle joint. And then I'll do is I'll walk forward with it so that it's on tension. And then I'll basically get into a deep squat and I'll kind of just push my knee forward. And what that looks like, I'll show you guys, is I will push my knee forward and try to keep my ankle on the ground. Pretty simple. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll take a kettlebell and I'll put it on the front of my knee. That way it pushes my knee forward and I'm getting the traction from the band. And I find this helps a lot with, especially most people that usually have pretty tight ankles. So give that one a try and let me know what you think. Okay, so one of my favorite things to do, not necessarily on squat day, but I do like to do a very light version of it, is I like to use my body tempering tools. I find that it just helps so much with tightness, especially in my quads, hamstrings, calves, sometimes even lower back. So I'll show you what I kind of do on the day when I'm in a squat. Now, if you guys want me to do an actual full body tempering work video, please leave a comment below. So what I kind of do, now this is obviously a little bit heavier than most people are going to use. This is a 133 pound body tempering tool, aka big piece of steel. Kind of just take it, ooh, and I'll lay it right across my leg. And I'll have my foot pointed slightly out, kind of like you can see it with my right foot. So instead of it being straight up and down, I'll have it kind of canted to the outside of my hip. And then I'll kind of just let it sit there for anywhere from 20 seconds to maybe 2.5 minutes. Just depends on what I'm really trying to target. Usually the day of when I'm squatting, you don't want to body temper too much because that'll actually hurt your performance. So I'm just kind of basically finding some really knotted up tight spots that are giving me trouble on the day. And I will just let it sit there. Like usually VMO, which I'm on right now, is usually the tightest. And right now, I'm doing a really good job of hiding the pain because it hurts a lot. But the biggest difference in the world I notice for tight quads is when I body temper with something usually pretty heavy. So again, if you guys want me to do a full body tempering video on the stuff that I do, leave a comment below. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is I'll take that medium resistance band and kind of stretch out the hamstrings. So real simple stretch, nothing fancy. Take your leg, come back. You want to make sure that this knee isn't bent, because if you're stretching like this, that's not really doing you any good. You want to make sure that your knee is straight. Take the band, lock my knee out, pull down with the band, and then let it just gradually come up. You don't want to like try to force it and then your back comes off the ground, or you have to roll over, or you have to like arch to get in position. No, you want to keep your back nice and flat. Keep the knee locked, not bent even just a little bit. Keep it fully locked. So squeeze the quad and just pull back. And I'll usually hold this for 20 seconds to a minute. Usually don't do much more. And then usually at the end of that 20 to 60 seconds, I will then go and externally rotate my leg and kind of go the whole way. Now, of course, I have a lot of mobility, just I've been doing it for years, but you should be able to at least get to a certain point where you can kind of feel the tightness, and then you work that range of motion. So go bring your leg lower and then bring it up higher. So it's stretching the hamstring. It's also stretching your adductors. Now, while you're down here, another move that you can do, get that camera a little lower for you guys, to help stretch the glutes, is just a nice static stretch. Take the leg, turn a little bit more like this. Take the leg, go across. I'll show you actually on the other side. Take your leg, go across so that you're trying to touch the ground. Take your knee, pull it towards your chest, and kind of work those ranges of motion. You can actually go where your foot's not even there, and you can, on the floor I mean, and you can kind of pull this direction. You can go a little bit more again. Keep just different ranges of motion to kind of stretch the glute. And same protocol, I'll do it for 20 seconds to 60 seconds aside. Okay, now getting into the actual warm-up versus the mobility stuff I showed you. So first thing I like to do, I'll do a little bit of 90-90 transitions. So you set up your legs. I'll give you guys a better angle again. Okay. So set up your legs, so that you're in a 90 degree position. Keep your hands in front of you. Keep your chest square. You don't want to be leaning forward or arching back, because that kind of defeats the purpose. So arms forward, and then you're literally just transitioning like this. And what that does is that helps open up the hips, gets the hips warmed up and nice and mobile. So I'll do those somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 15 transitions. Then the other thing I'll do is I'll do a little bit of a get up, a little 90-90 kind of hip extension. So same thing, you want to keep your back nice and square. And then I'll show you from the side what it looks like. So I'll keep my hands in front of me. Keep my hands in front of me, and I'll push off using my glutes. And I'll come down under nice control, push up again. And you want to get, the goal is to get those hips forward. Come down nice and controlled. What that looks like from the front. Set up like this. Push forward. Come down under nice control. And you'll find that it's going to be really difficult to actually do that under control. Most people, they'll come up and then they'll start to come down and then they'll just plop. If you're plopping, then you know that you need to take more time and actually trying to go slower. And if you need to, you can actually tie a band to the rack and then you can slowly let yourself down, but just try to keep the tension inside of your hips and glutes. Okay, next thing I'll do, I'll warm up my abs a little bit. So, lay on my back, get my hands flat against the ground, pick up my butt, make sure that my lower back doesn't have an arch, so I'm not arched up. I want a nice flat back. Put both my legs up, and what I'll do is I will slowly lower one leg, and then this right now I'm engaging my core so that I don't allow the other leg and also my torso to come forward. So again, lay it out nice and controlled, hold it, come back up. Same thing on the other side, hold it for a second, come back up. And what you'll notice is your back is either going to want to arch, your lower back, or your leg is going to want to either go side to side or it's going to start to fall with it. You don't want that. You always want to keep that 90-degree angle because that's what allows your abs and your core to actually activate. So I'll do those for somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 reps a side to maybe 15 reps a side if you want to actually get a good workout in with it, but it looks something like this. And then once you do that, if you want to go to the more advanced level, you just push both legs out in front of you, and you can see I'm shaking, dude. But same thing, core engaged, and then come back. And that is a very good ab workout. Okay, next thing I'll do is I'll do hip airplanes. Line up to either a wall, a rack. You can even use a stick if you needed to, because most people who have never done it before, you're going to need something to stabilize on because you're going to lose your balance. Line up with the rack. Get your feet square. You're going to come down like this. You don't want to overbend. You don't want to be like, so you're at literally like a T, but you also don't want to be too high. Usually I go about 40 degrees, 45 degrees. Get all my tension on this leg. Push the other leg back by using my glute, and then I will literally just rotate onto that hip by firing this glute. Go down, stretch it, and then fire that glute. Go down, stretch, and then I'm firing that glute to allow me to open up my hip. Kind of looks like this from this angle. Get my leg back, fire the glute, open up the hip, come down under control. So I'm stretching the glute now, fire. And what that does is allows you to get your hip capsule open and open up your knees so that you're in a good position to squat. Next thing I'll use is the hip circle, and I'll kind of do like a banded resistance bodyweight squat, and I'll hold it at usually a couple different spots to allow me to actually engage my glutes fully and get a really good blood flow through it and allow them to be activated. So what I'll do, take the hip circle, or you could use a band. Get it right below my knee. So I get it right below my knee. I'll take my slightly narrower than normal squat stance, and then I will basically squat about a quarter of the way down while I'm pushing out on the band. I'll hold it for 5 to 10 seconds max. Then I'll go down to parallel. Same thing, hold it 5 to 10 seconds, and then on the way up, hold it 5 to 10 seconds. And what I find that does for me is that really allows my glutes to get really firing good. So that way when I'm actually putting weight on the bar, when I'm coming down, I can feel my glutes engaged, because a lot of times I don't actually feel my glutes engaged, and that's from being sedentary most of the day when you're sitting down. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's what I do before every single squat workout. If you guys like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, because I got some good stuff coming. And if you want to see a body tempering video, leave a comment below. I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.